Kenko Hacks, a podcast about wellness, health, and biohacking.
Konnichiwa. This is a podcast from Kenko Hacks. I'm Eva. Today we are delighted to have as our guest Martin Kremmer, a TED speaker and a co-founder of Danish Biohacker Community. Martin, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Eva. Thanks for having me.
We got to know each other at Danish Biohacker Community's Facebook page. The community is also a meetup group who organizes physical meetups with interesting talks about biohacking. By the way, I love your LinkedIn profile, which says that you work as a digital architect for a living and a biohacker at night. Could you please introduce yourself to the listeners and tell us how you got started with biohacking?
Absolutely. Well, so as you mentioned, I'm officially a digital architect at a big corporate consulting place called EY that I'm sure many people know, and I've been there for 20 years almost, and I've been doing a lot of things over the years, and it's always been in the space of tech. And you can imagine for 20 years, tech has come a long way, as has my own journey with technology. And I think my everyday job of being a digital architect and really trying to think through how technology can change people's life from a work setting standpoint is obviously something that is an easy bridge into how technology can be used to improve our lives in general, right? So when I'm stating that I'm a biohacker at night, it's really something that I honestly stand by, because a lot of the knowledge that I have gained over the years around biohacking for the last, I guess, almost 9 years, eight years now. It's been consumed during long haul flights to the US and to Asia, obviously middle of the night. So I have been learning a lot when traveling, and that's kind of how it's all started. I have a history of a burnout physically that kind of led me onto the path of biohacking, as people may have heard about in my TEDx talk. But yeah, that's me.
Yeah. I did listen to your TED Talks actually several times, and I will make sure to link to that on the show note as well. It's a brilliant talk, really, about your own personal journey into how you became the CEO of your own health. I thought it was really wonderful title as well. So you initially got into biohacking to mitigate health issues you were personally experiences. I recall you mentioned things like persistent fatigue, skin problems like skin rashes, and etc.
Yeah.
And I guess that today your health is much better thanks to different biohacks, and you are basically optimizing your health, right?
Absolutely. I mean, to me, it's become this, I guess, never-ending journey of optimization, which I'm sure we're going to get into the importance of balance in life that I know you probably, with your background, also would appreciate. But I think my journey with biohacking has certainly become, it's a very big toolbox. That's what I often refer to when I give talks on biohacking. To me, biohacking, it's about having a tool for every situation that you may encounter in life, really. Obviously, a lot of that is about managing your health and managing your daily energy. But once you get through whatever problem you may have from a health standpoint, that's really when the magic can start, right? It's when you can start to take steps into things you've never thought about, right? It could be that you're suddenly open for other things in life, that you just have energy to complete and you have energy to do more. And then, that's that.
Yeah, and today I think that you are not only optimizing your own health but others' health, right? You are a really thought leader and in the Danish biohacking community. Beyond just the meetup and the Facebook group, you are really somebody, I think, especially in Denmark and the Nordics, people look up to and look for biohacking advice. I could imagine. And so when people come to you and ask, well, I am a beginner here, I'm a novice, where can I start? I'm sure you get asked that question a lot, and obviously that's a little bit frustrating question because everybody is so different. But is there some kind of place to start? Like, for example, I think I recall from the TED Talk, like genetic test you took, like you discovered about your certain genetic mutations, like the famous MTHFR genes
Yeah.
that you discovered that you have reduced methylation ability. I actually found it very interesting because I have exactly the same reduced ability, 75%. So,
Hmm.
but is it something you usually recommend other people to start with?
Well, actually, no. I used to talk a lot
Hmm.
about genetics testing and also biomarker testing, right? And
Hmm.
really just using those intelligently to zoom in on what you should be fixing first. And I still stand by when I'm giving advice around nutrition that if you really want to make sure, right, then for a couple of $100, probably even $100 these days, you can get somewhat good directional advice on your diet choice, and
Hmm.
that may be a good idea. But actually, what I've learned the last year and a half, and kind of it's been a journey of realization, as I think, as I mentioned with biohacking in general, it's constantly evolving, and the beauty of this statement n equals one, right, that we are all our own test group from a scientific standpoint. If
Hmm.
people have that in mind first and foremost when they start kind of delving into the world of biohacking, then I think it's actually a lot better to give people advice in the sense of starting with the basics, right? As simple as it
Right.
sounds, and as it may sound like you just kind of a get out of free get out of jail card, right? That just start with paying attention to what is draining you and what is driving you. Like, be
Right.
curious as to what's happening in your body, figuring out, just a little bit about nutritional um, science in terms of, can you actually uh, do anything alternative to what you do today. I think a lot of people are just living in this norm that the society has formed around them, that there's a certain way
Hmm.
we must eat, and it's oftentimes good enough, right? But for many
Hmm.
many people, they will discover through things like changing towards a more low carb or ketogenic diet, or maybe even introducing fasting to kind of achieve the same output around, ketones in your body flying around producing more energy, giving you
Hmm.
more energy anyway. I mean, it's little things like that that I think people should start with before jumping in and spending lots of money on testing. Although that's a great thing to do too, it's just not necessary all the time, right? So paying attention
Right.
to nutrition, getting a good amount of sleep, getting a good amount of hydration daily, making
Hmm.
sure that you move every day and find habits and hacks that kind of introduces movement to a point where it's not a burden for you. It's just something that's joyful, right?
Right. I totally agree. Nutrition, and I recall that you have emphasized the importance of nutrition in a couple of previous talks as well. And that's very interesting. And it's so true what you say, that the small things like nutrition, what you have to do anyhow, with or without biohacking, you need to pay attention, especially in the beginning.
Yeah.
But nutrition can also be very complex issue, right? There are different. There seems to be ever increasing number of different disciplines. Like you mentioned ketosis already, and it's also, of course, very big right now. And there is carnivore, there is vegetarian, there are vegan. There are so many different
Mhm.
types of even extreme diets or way of eating, paleo, etc. um, and of course, I don't want to go into the details of what is right or what is wrong because it's so individual. And but finding out what is right for you can be tricky. How did you manage to find the right nutrition or nutritional protocol for you?
Well, to be honest, I jumped right into the keto bandwagon, basically.
Hmm.
And in the very early days of keto, and was probably on a more junk keto diet than I should have been. And I totally neglected the importance of vegetables and fibers. I ate a lot more vegetables
Hmm.
than I used to do in the past, but the overwhelming amount
Hmm.
of, namely saturated fat for me, just, over a couple of years yielded poor results. Meaning I had an immediate lift in energy. It was great for me, and I really was raving about keto like many others. But over time, there was something not fully right, and because I kind of regained my ability to pay attention to my body and really listen to the signals that it sends you all the time, I started to just realize that maybe something was off, right? And that's when I really delved into the world of genetics and figured out that was where my problem was, right? It was in my APOE genes. That was like the worst combination possible, almost. And certainly, when then swapping out a lot of the butter and saturated fat that I was eating with more of a Mediterranean style diet, I immediately, just noticed the difference in my skin. I'd begun to a little bit of a rash that arose again on my chest that I had before as well. So it's kind of for me a signal that, something is not fully functioning in my body. And when I changed out the butter for olive oil, like after a couple of months, it disappeared, right? And it's not been there since. And to me, it's like when you get to that stage of paying attention, well, it actually becomes easy to just navigate it. But when you go crazy and you become fanatic about nutrition, to me, that's a much, much more, I guess, stressful and bad scenario to be in. And that's actually part of the reason why I also really, started to do more socializing of my knowledge. It was when I realized that a lot of people, especially young people, are stressing about wanting to be perfect. They're stressing about wanting to find the optimal diet for them and kind of neglecting the fact that they're too stressed about studying or school or life or whatever it may be, just work or whatever it may be, right?
Yeah.
And they're forgetting the fact that a balanced life with even alcohol from time to time is actually very important and will lower your stress significantly more than eating the right foods. So
Yeah, I totally agree. I actually reflected on my own behavior just recently that I was actually getting stressed to relax.
yeah,
And I thought that I realized the irony. I was basically trying to meditate and couldn't find time and got stressed about it. And I decided, no, wait, just chill. It's no good to get stressed about,
yep.
reducing stress. That's definitely not serving the original purpose. Just a little bit of rabbit hole there about ketosis, because I have actually never followed ketosis or ketone diet, even though of course it's a very big area of interest right now. So you said that your genetic composition doesn't really go along with high fat diet like ketone diet can be, but you still have discussed the importance of being in ketosis previously. Can we get into ketosis without
Oh
eating a lot
yes,
of fat?
absolutely. And most people are in ketosis from
Hmm.
time to time without really knowing it. Especially those who may not eat breakfast, right? So through intermittent fasting, you will get into
Hmm.
ketosis after about 12 hours. And depending on
Right.
your state in your body in terms of, if you're potentially a little bit of like, if you have hyperglycemia or insulin resistance or whatever it may be, you may have some conditions where it's taking you longer to truly get into ketosis. But after, say, 16, 18 hours of fast, most people are definitely way into ketosis. And over time, if you fast for 16 to 18 hours for just 3 days, which means obviously you still eat every day, right? But you're just kind of shortening the window that you eat in. Then you are slowly moving towards adjusting your body to recognizing that there is an alternative fuel source to glycogen, which is what's stored in your muscles and your liver, and that basically is what keeps you
Hmm.
running. Most of the time. The problem is though that most people have forgotten what it means, and their bodies have forgotten what it means to utilize that alternative fuel source, which is our stored fat. Right, so you can
Hmm.
get into ketosis, and it's in my mind a lot healthier actually to get into ketosis through fasting and kind of supporting that type of ketosis. It's the same type of ketosis, don't get me wrong on that, but it's just you can kind of subtly support your ketosis with actually very little fats through a fast, right?
Right.
So you don't have to put
Hmm.
3 tablespoons of butter in your coffee to reach ketosis and
Right.
MCT oil and all of that. I mean, I did a ton of MCT oil in the beginning, and it didn't yield any good results.
Yeah.
quite the opposite, actually. So I would say do that if you're concerned about whether ketosis is something for you or not from a genetic standpoint. Everybody can fast
Mhm.
with, unless you're pregnant or still in the growing age of being a teenager, right? Everybody can fast with benefit
Mhm.
for sure.
Do you also supplement with external ketones if necessary, or is it a good way to get into ketosis as well?
It is, and I still use a little bit of MCT oil from time to time. My good friend Simland, who you may know,
Yes.
he's a brilliant mind. Although he's
Hmm.
very young, he's absolutely stunning when it comes to knowledge on all of this, basically.
Hmm.
And through some of his research and I guess interviews and podcasts and whatever we've done over the years, there is something about just a little bit of amount, like a teaspoon of MCT oil, actually will enhance some of the autophagy that's going on. They're basically, I don't know whether you're into fasting and autophagy, but
Hmm.
there are a couple of variations of autophagy, and one of them is more supported by MCT oil, where the other, which is the one that's more, I guess, beneficial from a longevity standpoint,
Yeah.
that's going to break when you introduce MCT oil, right? So
Right.
it's just finding that, what is your reason for fasting, or what is your reason for ketosis, right? If your reason is energy on a daily basis, more so than longevity, then introducing a little bit of MCT oil can be beneficial, and certainly won't harm the fast, or will give you, a quicker journey towards deeper ketosis. And I do that from time to time, probably say 3 or 4 times a month. I'll wake up and I'll just kind of check in with myself. Always hydrate first and drink a big glass of water before I do anything else. Check in with
Hmm.
myself, and if I feel like today I need more energy, then I will take a good old school bulletproof coffee, but with like 25% of the fat that I used to do in my bulletproof
Yeah.
coffee. So
Yeah. I do follow intermittent fasting, but it's quite short. So I stop eating 7 p.m. and I don't eat my breakfast next day until maybe 9 a.m. or 10 a.m. So that's approximately 12 to 13 hours of fasting every day. Fasting, I actually was very keen on doing a longer fasting before, but then I think it was Mark Sisson who mentioned like maybe fasting is or extended fasting has um, less positive impacts on women, especially in reproductive age.
yeah,
So I never really got into extended fasting myself. My fiance, on the other hand, actually he does 24 hours fasting 2 to 3 times every month. But when it comes to women, I have heard actually a little bit mixed opinions about especially extended times or time of fasting.
yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, stress is an interesting aspect, and it is also that something that's introduced via fasting to a degree, right? So
Yeah,
it is a little bit tough on your body to fast, and if you are definitely trying to get pregnant, or in the age where you still want to be pregnant, unless you're sick and have a condition that you want to say quell inflammation, right? Say you have an
right.
inflammatory issue, then I probably wouldn't recommend it either. Again, it's about
Yeah,
what is your reason for doing all of this, right? It's-
exactly who you
yeah.
are. But guys can take it. Guys can
Yes.
take tough things,
Absolutely.
obviously.
Yep.
That's good. Um, so you have been biohacking for almost 9 years now. You said 9, 10 years. So I'm sure that you have tried out quite a lot of different biohacks on yourself. Um, and I'm just curious to hear a couple of maybe some of the biohacks you have tried so far, which maybe made quite significant impacts on your health.
Um, well, I will say, I mean, biohacks are obviously it's a vast bucket of options, right? And I've
Yeah.
tried a lot, but the stuff that I've done that really has given me most quantifiable uplift in terms of energy or health or just general well-being and happiness, that's actually been cold thermogenesis, and just kind of adjusting my body
Mhm.
to what we here in the Scandinavian part called winter swimming, right? And spending
Yeah.
2 or 3, 4, 5 minutes, however I feel like it, in cold water. That is something I can measure on my HRV, so my heart rate variability, right? My physiological stress marker.
Hmm.
It is improving, very consistently when I go into cold water, which
Hmm.
is interesting as it's actually a stressor for the body to go into cold water, but you're tricking so
Yeah.
many kind of survival instincts in your body that's really, it's been around since Hippocrates, right? In the early days of the Greeks, saying
Yeah.
that, cold water is really, something that can cure a lot of things. It just gives you that boost of energy immediately, but also long term, it gives you lower inflammation. It just it lowers your cortisol, and so that's just, it's been my biggest aha, I would say, and certainly something I'll probably do forever in my life, honestly.
Yeah, that's really interesting. In Japan, where I originally come from, Zen monks in Japan, they are known to do meditation under cold
Mm.
water. So they have been doing that for many hundreds years, and they are also known in Japan. There are people who are always interested in longevity and living forever many years before biohacking
Yeah.
came to the world. So it's very interesting to see that those ancestral wisdom or things people have been doing for many thousands of years actually came to the daylight of biohacking
Yep.
scrutiny, because now, as you say, you can see actually the data. You can wear a device and see your own HRV and see, oh, cold exposure is actually very good on my HRV and other things. So that's very interesting to hear.
Yeah, I would say that, and then that's again the beauty of biohacking, that we sometimes try to stack things, right? So I often do breathing
Yeah.
practices before I go into the water, and then when I'm in the water, I'm very focused. It's for me, it's also quite a meditative experience to be in cold water. I really focus on not stressing. I'm calming down my nervous. It
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 is
is,
hard.
but once you get it though, it's like you can't do without it. I really
Hmm.
look forward to getting into the water and just kind of experiencing that immediate physical sensation of, it's unpleasant,
Wow.
and then immediately just switching off
Hmm.
my mind and breathing slowly and focused. And for me, like, you forget time, and all of a sudden you've been there for 2, 3, 4 minutes, and you go up again, and everybody around you are like, what's he doing? That's
Hmm.
crazy guy down there in the water. So because a lot of people here in Denmark, they just jump in, they scream like a pig, and then they jump up again, right? And
Yeah.
I sometimes tell them, you should stay in there a little bit longer, or at least when you get out of the water. That's my kind of little help to people sometimes. I said, just remember that the benefits of cold thermogenesis, they're there even though you're just standing cold in the air. You don't have to be in the water, right? So when people jump
Hmm.
in and they immediately jump back into their warm cars and drive back home, they're
Hmm.
kind of losing out of the benefit. But standing there naked, or whatever swimsuit they have on, cold and in the, just in the air, actually is as good as being in the
Right.
water, because your body temperature is still cold, your body is trying to warm up itself, and the physical effect is still there. So
So you really do cold therapy. You just jump into the cold, like ice water without sauna, because that's what I used to do in Finland and also here in Sweden as well. But I've actually never done real cold therapy, I think, like that. Just the cold part.
well, it's certainly nicer with the sauna, but
Right.
I don't have access to one just yet. So nope, I just do the cold. So
Wow. The hardcore way.
maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know. I would
I,
definitely enjoy the sauna, but when I'm in Finland seeing Finns there, I will jump in the sauna for sure. I love it.
yeah. Um, so how do you find new biohacks to try on yourself? Like, do you read some books? You already mentioned Sim Land, and he has authored several books. Or do you listen to other podcasts? Do you have any favorite podcasters within the biohacking arena?
My absolute favorite is Ben Greenfield. To me, he's just
Mm-hmm.
the perfect combination of living his own wisdom, really, and really, like you mentioned, the ancestral wisdom angle is one that I really also enjoy, and I know that he does too. I've had the pleasure of meeting him several times, and he's just a fun guy
Hmm.
to be around, and
Yeah.
he's genuine. And the world of biohackers is interesting because there's a lot of folks in the arena that are, I would question their motives for being there. Right?
Hmm.
Are they there truly to help other people? Are they there because they're helping themselves? Or they're there
Hmm.
because they want to earn money, right? And that's my biggest
Hmm.
beef with the industry of biohacking as it's becoming, right? That and in the early years when I was traveling a lot to around the conferences and gained a lot of friends in the space, we had a lot of
Hmm.
very, very motivating movement discussions around like how can we make sure that this is truly painting a new paradigm in the world where people can now take care of themselves. And I'm a strong
Hmm.
believer in that knowledge should be free, and that as much as possible it should be shared freely, and help each other. By, for instance, building networks is something that really is also an ancient thing in our society, and we should try
Hmm.
and stick with that. Yet I think that the American style of biohacking has become very, very commercial lately,
Yeah.
which sometimes annoys me. Other times I enjoy it because it does. There are good products coming out of it too. So you got to be mindful of
Yeah.
finding that balance between. Of course, people have to survive, right? So it's fair enough
Yeah.
that they take money for their knowledge. And take a look at our good friends in Finland who are spitting out awesome material. My good friend Dr. Ollie up there, he sometimes
Hmm.
messages me and say, "Oh, I'm so creative today. I'm going to write a story on this or that," right? And and it's just like fantastic that he does it, and at the same time can live with that. So it's great. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, I can totally relate to what you said. The money part, like commercial part, and the necessity for it. But on the other hand, balancing it with the seeking of the real knowledge and sharing it generously with to help others. And that's exactly what we want to do with this platform, Kenko Hacks,
awesome.
as well, to share knowledge. Yeah. Um, so going back to your biohacking, I think that I heard about a little bit of your morning biohacking routine in other show where you discussed about your own personal biohacking routine. You mentioned the coffee, meditation, and that just got me curious. Could you share with us a little bit of your like routines? What do you do routinely? What's in your lifestyle in terms of biohacking?
Well, I will say the time we're in now with COVID-19 and how that's changed
Mhm.
my life significantly. Um, my morning routines, ironically, has changed a little bit, and sometimes we do find ourselves in periods where we feel like we want to change things, and it kind of goes to my previous point of balance. But anyway, the current COVID world means that I'm not traveling. Right, I used to travel quite a
Yeah.
bit, as you've heard as well, and having been at home with my lovely wife for now a year straight with no
Mhm.
travel,
Yes.
it's the first time in 10 years I've done that, and it just introduces new routines, honestly.
Yeah.
Not that it's necessarily a bad thing, but it just kind of opens up the possibility to do other things as I have more time at home and at night
Mhm.
as well. I've certainly I've found myself doing different kinds of things, but also working a little bit more, unfortunately, just to be
Yeah.
accommodating to my many U.S. colleagues that are stuck with homeschooling as well for way longer than we've been here
Right.
in Scandinavia. And so I've been very flexible towards colleagues, and that's also part of why I've changed a little bit. But back to my morning routine to answer your question, it is still very much like it's always been. I get up, I'm very focused and almost like zen like in the morning. I try to be really calm and relaxed, and have
Mhm.
this idea that if I start my day focused and in kind of peace and quietness, it usually becomes a much better day than if I, like I used to in the past, like jump out of bed, rush into, shower, hit the road and get to work, right? Always stressed. Like now, at least I know the first 2 hours in the morning, I'm super relaxed. I rarely jump straight into a meeting, although I have also done more of those in the period of COVID here.
Yeah.
But I always check in with myself first, which means drink a big glass of water with salt and some apple cider vinegar, just to kind of control my blood sugar, making sure it's nice and stable in the morning, because blood sugar will rise naturally in the morning with cortisol and all of that. But I still try to just kind of ease it out, take my supplements, make my coffee, which is to me almost a mindfulness exercise. Really, I do a pour over coffee, handheld coffee, you could call it. So all of that just takes 20 minutes, honestly, where I'm not talking, not looking at my phone, just being me and very mindful. And then some days, most days, I'll sit down in front of my red light panel and I'll do like 15 minutes of breathing and somewhat meditation. Some days I do strict meditations. Other days I'll just do pure kind of Wim Hof breath style. Really energizes me. Usually I'll sip a bit of coffee throughout that whole exercise there. And then I'll do a little bit of yoga. So that's my morning routine. And then I go straight to work, basically. And then I work for 12, 15, 16 hours.
That's a long working day. Because of this the genes you mentioned in your TED talk, mother her genes, and I also share the same mutations. I just got curious about these supplements. Do you still take folate and B12? Do you keep taking it for many years, or have you sometimes, were you able to stop that at certain point?
Well, I stopped taking my B12 and folate at some point. I simply ran out. And then I noticed on my annual blood panel that my homocysteine levels were through the roof, which is one of those silent inflammation markers that at the time was not even recognized in Denmark. My doctor here, when I took my US blood measurements to her, she was like, I don't know what that is. I can't comment on that. So, and nor was there a lot to find in the literature here in Denmark about it, but there is now 3 years later. And so I am still taking my B12 every day, my B3, my B9, my B vitamins, I should say, right? And I'm also really making sure that I eat a lot of organ meat. I have these powdered capsules. I think they're called Nordic Kings or something. That's a very nice, pure, organic brand where they're powdering liver and heart from grass-fed beef and or grass-fed cows, I should say. And it's just very nice. And obviously you get a lot of your vitamins through that is needed for that. So then I eat a lot of vegetables. So
that's interesting. I will make sure to have that actually on the show notes, like Nordic.
I think that's what they're called. I should look them up.
It sounds like it comes from Scandinavia, maybe.
Oh yeah, it's Swedish.
Right. So it comes from. Okay. I'll make sure to have it on the show note for interested listeners. Are there some biohacks you are currently keen on trying in the near future?
Well, I just yesterday, I got the SenState device, which is this, what is it called? What's the word for it? Is
it brain device?
Yeah, but it stimulates your vagus nerve, right? So it's called,
right.
It's like a bone conduction device that basically is vibrating, right? So it's
SenSate, right?
Yeah.
That's I know it looks like a stone.
Yes, correct.
A little stone, and you put it on your chest, on your body, and I think it's an ultrasonic vibration.
Correct.
Actually,
yes.
I have been actually having my eye on that device as well. So you just got one.
Yeah, I met the founder of the company in Helsinki at the biohacking event there. I had a good long chat with him, and I'm also going to have him on my webinar series for the community. And yeah, I just, after speaking with him and realizing his rationale behind building the product, I was like, that sounds like something for me. So now I have it in my hands, and I'm going to try it out. And it's definitely a promising technology, right? It kind
Yeah.
of stacks a couple of modalities. One is, as you mentioned, the kind of infer sound waves, basically, right? So it's like
Hmm.
vibrating on your chest directly through to your heart almost, and triggering
Yeah.
the vagus nerve and the vagus tone. But at the same time, you're playing these kind of binaural beats almost into your headphones. So
Yeah.
it's a really a stacked meditative experience. So I'm looking forward to really diving into it. I only tried it for 5 minutes
Yeah.
before, so yeah, that's my next thing. So
Yeah, that's actually, I'm very keen on learning what you discover with Sensate, because as I said, I've been keen on trying it on myself as well. And I actually have lots of questions how it works. I have been trying to find like information like, does it replace meditation? Because
mm,
that's what I heard in some of the, like the videos I watched about the product. But like, on the other hand, I don't want to replace my meditation. Maybe I want to enhance that, and can the device do that? So that's a very interesting, I think, device to try on.
yeah, I don't think it replaces meditation, but it certainly, from a
Right.
pure stress reduction standpoint, it's probably as good as meditation. Because the problem with meditation, and funny enough, we have a mindfulness and meditation coach on our little kind of what we call the Nordic biohacking blueprint team, and we talk quite
Hmm.
a bit about her meditation practice and all the research behind that, what it does to lower stress and so on, right? But when it comes to
Hmm.
building gray matter in the brain and strengthening the brain and allowing for it to grow, meditation, I believe, there's really nothing that beats that, right? Other than perhaps
Hmm.
solving Sudokus. But Sensei, to me,
Yeah.
it does not take that away from meditation, right? So there's still the edge from that standpoint. But
Right.
Sensei certainly will reduce your stress level significantly, and that's why I got interested in it. Honestly, just hearing some of the stories that Stefan talked about from his clinic in London, how he'd had these corporate bankers coming into him for 10 years, really trying to get into
Hmm.
meditation and trying, and yet they're still stressed because it's so hard for them to get into the meditative practice. And it is very hard for many people. Either
Hmm.
you're not into it, right? Or you don't believe it, which is
Yeah.
still to me a bit ridiculous that people don't believe in something. A lot of things can be proven with science today, right? But this sensei just,
Yeah.
he said, it's coming out of the American military, and it's actually, speaking of ancestral wisdom, it is mimicking the same
Hmm.
state of a kind of state in your body as if you were chanting or humming, right? As many indigenous
Hmm.
cultures are doing through singing, right? So the same kind of sensation of vibration in your chest when you're doing the Om sound in yoga practice, for instance, it's very similar, right? Although
Hmm.
very targeted and very,
Yeah.
I guess, effectful through this device here. So yeah, I'll let you
Yeah.
know how it goes.
Very interesting. Yes, please let us know. Now let's talk a little bit about the Danish biohacker community. Then, um, I think it started in 2018 or
Yes.
2017, and yes, it's growing very fast. Today, you have about
Yep.
2,000 members. So, how did the community
Well,
get
so I
started?
actually started it in 2016, but I only opened it up as a
Mm,
page, and
okay.
I didn't really do much in there. I was just opening up the group to gauge the interest in Denmark, and there were a couple of hundred people signing up and so on. And then my
Mhm.
now good friend Arthur De Roy, he reached out to me and said, "Hey, I'm from Belgium and I moved to Denmark, and do you need a helping hand with getting your community and kind of up and running from a meetup standpoint?" And I thought
Mhm.
about it overnight, and I said, "Well, yeah, you know what? It's time." And it was funny enough, at the same time as I had realized that it was post a longer journey that I was on to realize why it really is that I want to be in this space, right? And why I'm doing what I'm doing. And to
Yeah.
me, it's about as I mentioned, helping other people is something that really motivates me. So I thought to myself, why not? Let's get it started. And he promised he would do all the lifting of helping to coordinate and gather people and so on. So we just we decided let's do it. So we open up the group that you mentioned now. It's a closed Facebook group. So we do let a
Yeah.
lot of people in. We don't really exclude anybody, but we just want the ability to kick people out if they are trolls or come to the community with wrong intentions or yeah, you know what I mean. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, sure. That's the dark side of
Yes.
internet, of course, and that kind of random group. And that's something very interesting about the Danish biohacker community as well. So I am a member of several of those private health or biohacking Facebook groups, and they are usually, as you say, it's a little bit maybe tricky area to handle because they can come from very different um, uh, different lives. They can have very different backgrounds, and the only common interest is this biohacking. So they can be really, from different occupations and thoughts groups, etc. But a Danish biohacker community, it's a very
Mm.
tight knit community, I would say, and very supportive. It's not, as we discussed a little bit earlier, there is this challenge to balance knowledge sharing and truth seeking and the commercial side as well. And the community, the Danish biohacker community, is very well balanced. I think it's really generous group of people who really want to optimize their own and others'
Mm.
health. For a very selfless purpose. So, how did you manage to build such a great biohacking community?
Well, first of all, thanks for saying that. That's actually it's rare I hear that, but I'm super stoked to hear you say that.
Sure.
I will not take the credit for that. I will not, because I think it comes with just making sure you have some good guidelines in your community, but also seeking out the right
Mm.
members. So that's something that
Mhm.
you don't find me answering a lot of questions in there, just because honestly, I have very little time in my day, and what I've done instead is I've spent a lot
Mm.
of time finding good people that are now actually, one of them is a doctor and functional medicine expert, Ulrik Hjepsted, and he's not only
Yeah.
become a good friend through the network, but he's also now the main moderator of the group. And having a guy like him who's got more time on his hands and is way more trustworthy than I am when it comes to his knowledge,
Yeah.
just let alone because of his his title, right? Being a medical doctor,
Yeah.
cardiologist, and really super sharp, and many others like him, I should say. We now have 5 doctors in the group, and they're all really helpful, and
Mhm.
they are what I would call
Yeah.
proactive doctors who gets that it's
Right.
actually beneficial for everybody, including the society, that we become proactive about our health, right? So if I'm to
Yeah.
take credit for any of that, it is to make sure that guys like him and others are brought into the network and also see the value of it, right? And that's really it.
Yeah.
We've had very few examples where we had to kick people out for misbehavior or sharing spam-like content.
Mm.
So yeah,
Yeah.
there's obviously some work in the background that people don't see. And then I will say, what else we've done is, before Corona, we did a lot. I think we did almost 25 physical meetups, which did take a
Mhm.
lot of time to organize. And when we were forced to do webinars, that was a little bit easier actually. And we've had a lot of interest in those, and we're going to kick them off again here in the next month, and we will have a lot of interesting speakers coming up on the webinars. And we just really try to have a good blend of what I would call expert knowledge, but shared with
Mhm.
the ability for people to ask questions. That to me
Yeah.
is key. The community should be about sharing and caring and asking questions and being curious. It's not about who's right. It's about what can we learn from each other. So
Yeah. I agree 100%. Ulrik was actually on a show a couple of days ago. We just recorded a podcast with him, and I totally agree about he's such a passionate
yes.
doctor for functional medicine, and his center, Copenhagen Center of Functional Medicine, and I was really it was really great to be talking to him too. About the webinars you mentioned, and so I heard about that a couple of times before you mentioned as well. And where can I find those webinars? Because they are not advertised on the Facebook page, and I couldn't find them on the Meetup page either. Where can people find about those?
Well, the easiest way to find them is to go into our page and then look for videos. Basically,
Okay.
they should be in there. Facebook is not the greatest when it comes to that, and
Yeah.
we probably could do more. We will when I get to I'm going on a 3 months leave of absence here in February and onwards. And one of the things that's on my to-do list is to just dig in and understand a little bit more about what Facebook offers. They, as much as I hate them, I do also appreciate their platform, and
Yeah.
they do have some skills and capabilities we haven't fully utilized. So, but yeah, people
Absolutely.
should be able to find them on the Facebook page, but also through the group. So,
Right. So they are actually not live webinars, or is it both live webinars which are saved for
yeah,
later thing as well?
they are
Okay.
live webinars, and then
Hmm.
everything you send or broadcast live via Facebook Live will be saved as a video in wherever you post it, right? So
Yeah.
it's as we post them on our group page, they're gonna sit there. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, great. Um, are there any biohacks or biohacking trends that are more popular in specifically in Denmark or maybe in the Nordics that are more popular there than in the other parts of the world?
Um, that's a good question, and honestly, I don't know because with my limited travel these days, I'm not really staying tuned so much to what's happening around the world. I mean, I used to go to a lot
Right.
of meetups around in the US and in London and other places, but haven't really been
Hmm.
in a year. So, in just judging from what I hear from my good friends in the network, I think the trends are obviously they're following each other a little bit, but I would say the big thing that's coming up now is the increasing amount of self testing that you can do, like blood testing at home, or
Hmm.
stress testing at home, or some more kind of biomarker esque testing versus it's been very focused on HRV the last year, obviously due
Hmm.
to the added amount of stress through COVID. That will carry
Yes.
on, right? So that's been a very strong focus throughout the whole community. But I think people are starting to, probably also because of the fact that it's January and people have New Year's resolutions and whatnot. I pick up an interest in people want to test their nutritional status, vitamins and stuff like that. So
Yeah. I think you can test quite a lot of things at home already, like omega-3, omega-6
yeah,
ratio. You can take like a Dutch test, and etc. And cortisol, I think you can take saliva cortisol test, like 24
yeah.
hours, and send it for the lab
The problem
analysis.
is it's so expensive.
And
that's
yeah,
that's the big
exactly,
challenge. Yeah.
exactly.
So
That is true, yeah. And you have to like ideally repeat it. Like for me, for example, I have been wearing continuous glucose monitor. Maybe you
mm,
have also. I wear Dexcom G6, and it's one thing to do some biohack, but to quantify if it's working for you and in which way, you would need to somehow quantify it, and then you have to do it before, during, and
mm.
after. And like blood test, for example, it's expensive to repeat in like in 3 months period, like every month or something. So that's a little bit of a challenge.
Indeed, yeah. I've not
Yeah.
yet tried a continuous blood glucose monitor, but it's definitely also on my list here for the upcoming period. So yeah.
Yeah. I think it's with Dexcom G6. I can share that it is a little bit maybe expensive at this moment if you cannot get it prescribed by your doctor, and usually you can't
Now you need to
because
be a
like
diabetic.
my blood glucose actually is normal and yours probably is. So it is then you have to go to a place like eBay and buy it with your own money, and
Mm.
that's a little bit complex,
Yep.
I think, thing to do. So you have obviously been giving so much to the community, organizing events. You already mentioned it's quite a lot of work, but has the community impacted you back in a certain way? I'm asking because when I started Kenko Hacks to help others, but then I'm realizing that sharing information to help others actually teaches me a lot. I'm learning so much myself. Have you had like similar
Oh
experiences?
yeah. I mean, we would not have this conversation here today if it not was for that community. I think I've just gained so many
Mm,
friends that I know are going to be lifelong. Honestly, really, really
mhm.
genuine people that are some. I mean, a lot of them are way smarter than me when it comes to the nitty gritty stuff of biohacking, and others are very experienced in their own field in terms of psychology or habits, or some are in totally random fields that I need another projects that I'm working on. So I've just gained so many relationships over the last couple of years that are very focused, and I really love that.
Yeah,
And it's giving that energy to do more together and help even more people, right? And so that's
yeah,
definitely something I've gotten out of that, which I'm sure one day will yield something which is a bit more, something that could be something I could sustain my life on, right? Or not sustain in the sense that
yeah,
I need to, but in the sense of it could become a legacy, right? That I would kind of pass on at some
yeah.
point. One of the things is together with Ulla Galsi and others, we are come up with this idea of community health groups, which we don't know when we're going to be able to gather people again, but it's a concept we want to try out. It's actually inspired by Dr. Ruscio, if you know his podcast, where
Yeah, Ulrich also mentioned his show.
yeah, he's amazing. But he's actually it's not him, but it's another guy he interviewed a couple of years ago, and
Hmm.
the concept is very much like AA meetings. So
Hmm.
it's kind of a next level community, if you ask me, where you would gather people based on their issues, and then you would find an expert, and it's going to be just a close circle of say 10 people or however many we
Mm,
can gather, and it's still going to be very affordable. Like, I don't know, imagine 50 Danish kroner or something per
yeah.
night, and it's going to be just them with alone time with an expert, asking very
Mm,
specific questions, for instance, around IBS, right? So it's kind of
mm,
like a little patient network, but it's a spin-off from the biohacker community. So that's our
right.
next big thing coming up. So
Yeah, so it's more like intervention. It's more sounds like it's not. It's one step further, as you say.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's super interesting. Um, So, well, you already mentioned quite a lot of biohacking, biohacks you have done, and we discussed tips for beginning biohackers. Do you have any tips for more advanced biohackers? I mean, people in the Danish biohacker community, they are quite advanced. I've seen like pictures of home built gym and like supplement stack, which is like 100 pills or something.
Hmm.
So they are very advanced people. Do you have any advice or tips for those people?
Um, yeah, and I guess I could answer this question in two ways. I could either go in the direction of mentioning the most crazy thing that I've heard of that people should try because it's promising them a whole lot of things. But actually, I'm
Hmm.
going to do what they probably will not expect me to do, which is to tell or ask, I guess, broadly in this forum here, why?
Hmm.
Why are you doing it? What is your rationale for wanting to do more advanced biohacking?
Right.
If you want to live till you're 120 years old, then that's fine. Then you do need to do something crazy. Not necessarily crazy, but you need to do something which is considered crazy in the current norm, right?
Yeah,
And there are lots of
like
things.
gene therapy or something.
Yeah, for instance, right,
Yeah.
which is
Yeah.
still a growing topic in the community and also in Denmark in general. But there are lots
Hmm.
of things you can do with like anti-aging type stuff, NAD supplementation and stuff like that, which I know a lot of people are starting to do, and I myself am slowly starting that up as I just turned 40. Is like, oh, maybe I should try and consider that, and just, but I want to measure things first. So anyway, that's another story. But back to what I would answer that question with, which
Yeah.
is balance, right?
Mm-hmm.
Are you sure you have a balance in your life that's making you truly happy, or are you seeking the holy grail in some biohack that's super advanced because you've been you bought into believe in it, right?
Mm.
So in other words, if you're not sick and trying to combat a problem that you have in reality, I would say figure out why you're doing it. Spend time in solitude, spend time building a robust mind is actually way more important than any biohack out there. And then, make
Mm.
sure you have a good base of social connections. Make sure you have joy in life, right? All those things, way more important than, making sure you take all your 100 pills every day.
Yeah, that's a very good advice, and that's maybe more difficult things to do,
Yeah.
obviously, because people are like, I think we human beings are more a little bit maybe ignoring those fundamental questions and attracted to something new, something exciting, some new biohacks like stem cell therapy or gene therapy or whatever it is. And that's fine, probably, if that's what you want to do, if you know that what it is for, and if it serves your purpose,
Mm.
like you said, if you want to live up to 200 years old or something, maybe you need it. But it's very important to ask yourself the question why you are doing something, or
Yeah.
you want to do something, and if something you are going to do serves purpose in terms of what you want to achieve.
Yep.
So that's very solid advice. Thank you
Absolutely.
for
I
that.
mean, you as a Japanese person, you should know of the what is it called, hara hashibu? Is that the
Harahachibu,
yeah, the
yes.
80% rule,
Yeah,
right? That's one of the 9
yeah,
points from the blue zones. If you read about those from
yeah.
the Okinawa, what is it called, Okinawa Islands, right? Yeah,
Okinawa, yeah,
I
Okinawa
think
Island, yeah,
that's the rule that they picked from there. But you can learn so
yeah.
much from those blue zones that again will just, if you truly live by some of those,
Mm-hmm.
including the one about finding purpose in life and have a sense of community. It's vital. So
Yeah. Relationships, they are very
yeah.
important, and that's so funny to hear you mention the harahachibu, because that's something actually, as a Japanese person, you grow up hearing that all the time. That's your mother says every day, harahachibu, don't eat too
Mm,
much. And I don't, like, it's only now I have been living outside Japan, I actually think about it, like, because it had become, like, as a Japanese person, it's been like really part of my upbringing and part of me, and only now I really think that, oh, that's actually a good thing. It's even like maybe qualifies as a biohack, but that's not like how I think most of the Japanese people tend to think. It's just so natural, it comes so naturally to us that, oh, that's what mother says all the
yeah.
time. So yeah, that's kind of quite interesting to think
I'm
about
sure
it.
there's a lot more in the Japanese culture that we can tie back to what we all call biohacking today, or at least the biohacking mindset, right?
Yeah, and that's
So
what I really try to actually highlight at our Kenko hacks as well. It's supposed to bring those Japanese ancestral wisdom to the world. So
fascinating.
yeah, I try to do that. um, Martin, you have been very generous with your time, and I know that our time is now almost up. But do you have anything else you would like to add to for our listeners today?
Um, I guess I would just invite people to stay curious and to reflect upon whether they are happy in the norm that they live in, or whether they somehow see a glimpse of an alternative or new norm that they should try and form for themselves. Because that's one of my rules in life, is that don't get stuck in what your surroundings tell you, right?
Hmm.
Get stuck because you're on a journey of an adventure, right? And then figure out how to move on. So that's the spirit I'm in right now, right today. So that's what I will leave people with. But other than that, I'll say, if there's any Danish listeners out there, I hope you are enjoying our community. And if you're not already in the group, please join us. There's also going to be more coming from me in the sense of material that I'm going to put out myself together with my good friend Nikolai. We've built this online course that we're going to carry on with and really help people get started in the world of biohacking. So yeah,
Yes.
more to come
Yeah.
on that. So
I will make sure to link your Danish Biohacker Community's information on the show notes so that people can go there and join. And about the material, I have heard before that it's like Danish. But in Danish, right? It's this biohacking
yes, our
manual.
Nordic
Yeah.
biohacking blueprint. Yeah, it's a
Right.
Danish web course. Yep. So
Okay.
yeah.
I look forward to that to be translated into English sometime
Maybe
later,
one
or
day we
maybe
will.
into Japanese.
Yep.
I can maybe help with that. But so Martin, thank you so much again for today. I think it was fascinating talking to you, and
Thank you, and likewise.
take
Thank you
care.
for a great interview.
This was a podcast from Kenquax. To follow us, subscribe on the channel Kenquax on all the places where you can find podcasts.